Welcome to our daily reflection for this Friday, May 16th. And today we hear that Paul is proclaiming a word of salvation and a word that saves, a message that saves. This is going to be the message he's going to call good news. And so let's hear what he has to say about this. And he talks about how Jesus is turned over by the Jewish leaders to Pilate, and they ask for him to be crucified. He's executed, placed in a tomb, but then God the Father raises him from the dead. And this is going to be the good news, that Jesus is raised from the dead. So there's a solution to death. And that is a big deal, because in the ancient world, this idea that there didn't seem to be ever a solution for death, and now there is in Jesus Christ. And that is remarkable good news. And he says, that's why we were proclaiming the good news to you, that what God has promised to our ancestors and fathers, he has realized in Jesus by raising him from the dead. And he says this fulfills, and he now quotes one of the very first Psalms, Psalm number 2, which says, "You are my son, today I have begotten you." And this is God's promise to his Messiah, to the one who will redeem and save Israel, that God will see this Messiah, this king of the line of David, as his own son. And of course, we know that's literally true, that fulfillment in Jesus Christ. He is the Son of God, and he's the Son of David. And that's a remarkable fulfillment. And of course, the psalm the church gives us today is Psalm 2, which celebrates this great promise that God's anointed, even though he will be opposed by the nations who will conspire against him, God will vindicate his anointed one and raise him up. And so we have that in Psalm 2 that we hear. And then Psalm 2 ends with this idea of serve the Lord with fear and rejoice before him, right? So we should respond with joy. And that's something very important for the whole Eastertide season, is for us to respond to the good news of the resurrection of Jesus with joy. We want to be joyful every day. That's an important practical resolution, because the church asks us to be joyful. And that is how we are going to evangelize, by receiving this word of salvation with joy. How can people believe that we have the good news of salvation if we're not joyful, right? We have to be witnesses of that. And then, of course, the gospel today, Jesus is telling his disciples not to be troubled, right? Because, even though if they have faith in Jesus, they know that he is going to prepare a place for them in heaven, in his Father's house. And he'll come back and take us to himself. And then Thomas asks, well, how do we get there? We don't know where you're going. How do we get there? And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life, right? And no one comes to the Father except through me. And so Jesus is our way of salvation. Jesus is our way to the Father. We are journeying to the Father. That is the goal of our life, is to draw ever closer every day to the heart of the Father. And Jesus is the way we do that. He is our roadmap. And so let's go to Jesus and ask him to show us the way to the Father. And let us put our faith and trust, and most importantly, our hope, that Jesus will bring us to the Father if we continually ask him to do so. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.